Okay, we're gonna get started. Ooh, 3 months back in it. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to my channel, String Things by Mel. My name is Melissa. I'm a stay-at-home mom living in Vancouver, Canada, and on my channel, I like to chat and share everything about my knitting hobby. So yes, it has been some time. 3 months, in fact. And didn't intend the break to be 3 months. It was supposed to only be for summer break, but June got away from me, and yeah. So we enjoyed our first full summer in our new house. We've now been living here for a year. And now the school year has started up again. My daughter is now in kindergarten. Today is the last day of the whole gradual entry process. It's not actually the same across the Vancouver area, but we got through it, and next week she'll start the actual full duration of a school day. And it's been an adjustment for both of us, maybe more so for me. She's going to be at school 5 days a week now. And I think once she's actually going there for the full duration, I will start building up my own, new personal routine and schedule, because that's how it was when she was in preschool 3 days a week. I just kind of worked around her schedule. It's just kind of how my stay-at-home parenting life has been. I just work around everyone else's schedule. But there's with a new phase of I might have my own schedule now because there's enough time in the day. Hopefully, we'll see. So that's kind of what's been happening the beginning of September. And so, because of that 3 month break, there's a lot to catch up on knit-wise. So let's just dive in. Let's go back to June. So in June, I did a sewing project. I actually sewed myself a dress, and that was a process, bit of like kind of relearning. I used to do a lot of sewing, especially in high school when I actually took sewing in high school. But it was nice to get back into it and actually have a designated space to leave it, so I didn't feel pressure to do, as much as I could in as what time I had. So there is that. And that is something I'm maybe planning on wearing to Knit City, Vancouver. I might be trying to knit something, a slip over a vest to go over top of it. Go for the whole me made outfit, but not quite sure yet at the moment. But what I also finished in June was a Sadie sweater. Now, this is a pattern from Ozetta, and it's pretty like casual, lightweight sweater. It's got rolled neck, rolled hems on the sleeves and the body. And I knit myself a size small, which is so the second size. Um, I think the color, it looks okay now because I have my summer tan still, but once this fades, I don't know if I'm going to be reaching for this come, late fall, winter. I think the color might wash me out a bit. If you hear some pitter patter, it's the cats. And yes, cats, plural. We have remained in touch with our old neighbors from our apartment building, and they've gone on a 3 week vacation. And so um, Tiberius's cat bestie Simba is here with us. So you might hear them running around playing together. But the yarn I've used here is from Hobie. It's Happy Place yarn from a collaboration with Tony Lipsy. And this is the melange, kind of like the marled lineup. And the color is called Sand. And I don't know if they're actually going to be selling this yarn anymore. Ever since I've looked, like I keep looking on the website and it's never in stock and you can't actually view the other colors. So I guess it was just like a one year collab. I don't know. But it's really um just vanilla sweater. It is a wool cotton blend, which is really nice, and it's machine washable. This has already gone through the machine, and I lay it flat to dry. And, working with this yarn, it already felt, comfortable enough. The wool content made working with the cotton, you know, more than comfortable because you get some of that elasticity from the wool, whereas cotton doesn't have that. So it actually felt good on the hands. And the fabric itself was nice before blocking. And then after blocking, it really softened up even more. So it's very comfortable. I've worn this camping. I brought this for all three of my camping trips this summer. It was just a great layer over top. And just knowing that it's machine washable as well. It goes into the mentality of wearing my clothing as well. Like, how easy is it to care for? And I knit this per pattern. I did do something a little bit different for the rolled hems and just changed up the needle size just a little bit so I don't get a huge amount of rolling. But someone commented on my last podcast episodes, this is going back to May, recommending like going down a needle size for the last couple of rounds. And so if you go back to that video, I pretty much did what that person said. I cannot remember exactly what happened, but here's my end of my sleeve. And so what I did when I got to the end, you can kind of see here. So I've used 4mm needles for the main body, then switched down to a smaller needle just for the last couple rounds, and then switched back to my larger needle, the 4mm needle. And I actually used my crochet hook to just do a standard bind off. And I guess having that smaller gauge here does minimize the rolling down. I mean, I did, when I washed this and laid it flat to dry, I didn't pin out the ends of the sleeves or the body. So it does still roll a bit, but I feel it doesn't roll as much. And then by returning to the larger needle size to do the bind off, it helps it not feel like so tight. So it's not a stretchy bind off. The standard bind off is not known to be something that's really stretchy or flexible. But it still leaves me enough room to wear the top comfortably and get this on and off. And the same kind of bind off process for the neck. I wasn't sure if I was going to like a rolled neckline, but it works. And it doesn't go super high, so I have like a white tee on right now. So this kind of peeks through, and I really like that peak, that layering. When I wear crew necks, in the past, Old Knee would have hated if a t-shirt showed up underneath, but now I'm like, that's what I actually want to happen when I wear crew necks. Oh, I forgot to mention what I'm wearing today. So this was my school drop-off outfit today, and I am wearing my Nordic bloom vest. It is a Caitlin Hunter pattern, was in the Lina kind of one-off magazine, Nordic Knits. And I do have a separate video on this vest because I had a little gauge mishap. Nothing wrong with the pattern. It was my hands misled me. You check out that video if you want to see what happened with that one. But really happy with this vest, and I get complimented every time I wear it, which is nice. And I thought the floral motif might be like maybe too traditional. I don't want to say granny, but maybe you get what I'm trying to throw out there. Um, but I get complimented on it every time. So it's kind of like, and I've been wearing it more than I thought I would. Kind of reach for it a little bit as a process knit to do some color work on some larger needles, but I am considering making another one. I'm not sure. The queue is ever growing and vast, so who knows if I'll actually get around to making another one of these. So yes, so this has a drop shoulders, worked top down. You come and pick up the stitches for the neckline after the fact. Relatively smooth process knitting this one up. There are short rows in the back to create, that slope for the shoulders there. all in all, pretty good knit. Would I knit it again? I think I might. Um, it's just, think I've realized that I like this lighter weight. Also, having the wool cotton blend is really nice, easy to throw on. I also would wear this going to the beach and not worry about like sand getting into it. Um, and that's because of the fiber content, not necessarily the style of the top. But yeah, I really like this. It really fits the beach vibes where I live. And so I would recommend this pattern, the Sadie Sweater by Ozetta. So the next item I finished, oh, look at that, is a little scarf. And this is something I also brought on one of my camping trips. The other camping trips were too warm for something like this. But this is the Stay Toasty Scarf by Veronica Lindbergh, also known as Kutafikika. And I just wanted, so I actually wore this with the Sadie sweater while I was camping. And I just wanted to have a little punch of color. So going back a number of years, um, I used to be like a heavy scarf wearer. Like I was always wearing a scarf in the fall and winter, and for some reason I stopped, and I don't know why. Maybe I just started all of a sudden get annoyed about wearing larger scarves. And this is like way before I even became a mom, so it's not a mom thing. Um, but I don't know why I never tried to wear a smaller scarf before. Maybe it just wasn't the style, but like little scarves are, was trending, is trending. And so I decided to make one of these. Also, just I needed kind of a palette cleanser, just work on something different. The yarn I've used is Knit Picks Palette in the color Tomato, and I've just held it single. I believe the pattern, a DK weight is recommended. I use the same needle size as the pattern, but Knit Picks Palette has a good bloom to it, and I didn't want this to be really heavy. And what I really like about this Stay Toasty scarf is that the stitch pattern, it looks good both ways. Like it looks fairly like the same, like reversible, and it's not garter stitch. So I wanted something simple, but I didn't want to knit a garter stitch scarf. I've done the Sophie scarf before. I knit like the biggest version of it. The shaping of it is, tapered, and then it gets kind of wider in the middle, and then you taper off again. There is a chart for the stitch pattern, and after a few repeats, I was able to just memorize this and not have to consult the chart anymore, which is really nice. So this was something nice that I was bringing, like when my daughter was in swim class or gymnastics. Actually, it would probably look really good with what I'm wearing right now. Should I just put it on? I haven't really quite figured out the best way to wear something like this. I'll just get my hair out of there. Yeah, so with this, yeah, I don't think it's too Christmassy, is it? I don't know, that might be a lot. Anyways, um, there it is. So just a little pop of color. Hoping with this I can get back into wearing scarves again. Yeah, maybe I used to just get annoyed with like my hair getting the scarf. I don't know. But so this is the Stay Toasty scarf. I believe there's a larger version or multiple sizes. I cannot recall. So yeah, I did a bunch of knitting this summer and I just decided to, I don't know, I didn't go by my usual standard of being like super meticulous about making notes and everything. Like this project didn't even make it into Ravelry. That's how kind of like free I was this summer, which is, pretty nice. Like to have that kind of break from being super detailed and recording every little thing. So yeah, Stay Toasty Scarf from Veronica Lindbergh, also known as Kutafikika. Knit Picks palette in the color Tomato. I need to take that scarf off. It's definitely not scarf weather outside, and so it's definitely not scarf weather inside. So I don't need to stay toasty right now. Next is a big project I had. So I went nearly, more than half the year of not signing up for any test knits. I kind of told myself, like, I'm not going to do any test knits. I actually, told myself no test knits in 2025. Well, then Ines Vertnit was put out a test call for the girl dress, and she had kind of teased or mentioned this dress earlier, so I kind of had it in the back of my mind. But she put out a test call, and of course, I needed to apply because it is a gorgeous dress. And if I don't knit a dress in a test knit, I don't know if I would have the enough personal motivation to get it done on my own. Now, that's not to say that this dress isn't worthy of finishing, but there's a lot of work and some challenges that go into knitting an entire dress on 3mm needles with pure silk. So, the girl dress, I have it here. Um, it is black, so it is hard to share some of the details, but I'll throw up some photos for you guys. So I decided to make mine a little bit shorter than what's written in the pattern. So what's written in the pattern is not a full-length maxi, but mine it just goes past the knees. I thought that'd be kind of a cute kind of cocktail dress length, and also just made it a little bit more versatile for my personal use. So still good to wear in the summer here, but not feeling like I'm wearing a full maxi dress, because especially with the style of this dress and that it's black, it just felt really formal if I made it full maxi. But so I've used Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which is the recommended yarn from the pattern. I did get a discount on this yarn, but not from this test knit. So last year when I test knit the Miletus dress, also from Vertnit, the testers were given a discount code to use directly to purchase directly from Knitting for Olive. So at that time, I decided to purchase an extra dress quantities worth of yarn. Very optimistic at the time. I hadn't even started the Miletus dress, and I was like, yeah, I would knit another dress after this. Um, and thank goodness I did that, because by the time the test call went out and testers were selected for the girl dress, the color coal was sold out. Now, I think it came back in stock a little later, but so I already had this in stash, and I only needed 7 balls for my dress. So I've knit size 2, pretty straight size 2. I didn't make any modifications about length in the upper portion of the dress. I did make a slight modification in the hip area and just added 2 extra increase rounds for the upper hip area. Just wanted mine to be a little bit more A-line, just a little bit more room around the hips. And it's not a big difference. It's just 2 extra increase rounds, which I think is only, was there 8 increases per those rounds? So maybe 16 stitches extra, if I recall correctly. um, so I also didn't make any modifications in terms of coverage for the dress. So it was put out as an option to the test knitters to add back panels to the dress, because some people, it's for modesty. Not everyone wants to show off their entire back. Some people need to still wear a bra for the full busted people out there. But I decided to just knit it as per pattern. So mine's, I guess, a good example of if you follow the pattern exactly, this is what the dress looks like. We have thin I-cord straps at the top, which go all the way to the back and connect directly to the waistband. And the waistband, you make a little casing and insert an elastic in there. And I decided to use my sewing machine to sew the straps to the inside of the waistband. I don't know, kind of see it here. So the stitch I used on my sewing machine was the stitch that I used for making buttonholes. I just did that right over the stitches there. And because it's black, you can't really, with the light here, you can kind of see it shining there. My black thread from sewing it on. Um, but from farther away, you can't really notice it. So, and it blends in pretty nicely just with like the straight columns of the stockinette stitch. And that way it just made me feel like it's even more secure. And then it's sewn directly into the elastic that's hidden in the waistband. So this one, I would say compared to my Milady's dress, this one feels really secure and feels like there's going to be less lengthwise stretching, like at the upper portion anyways, um, because of this elastic band. So the elastic band is like really, I wouldn't say it's like super tight, but it is quite snug, close to the body. So that really does help with the pull of the skirt portion of the dress. Now, that kind of support isn't in the Milady's dress. It's just you got wider straps, and then there's like a little detail at the waist and then into the full dress. I also did mine maxi length. So when I wear that dress, I definitely can feel the length, the weight of that dress like onto my shoulders, onto the straps there. And there has been some stretching out, but not too much. Whereas this one, I really don't feel that at all. And even with like these skinny little straps, I know there can be some concern about these little straps stretching out. But in my case, that elastic band really adds um, a significant amount of support to the dress. This is something that I am planning to wear to the next Christmas party with my husband, and I do have plans on knitting something to accompany it, something to go over top, because it might be a little bit chilly in the room. Um, so yeah, third dress in 3 years. I don't know if this is something that I will continue to do. I honestly don't wear dresses very often, but it is kind of nice to knit a dress and to say, like, I knit a whole dress. What else can I say about this? The test process, as per last time I tested for Anesh, was great. She provides a lot of room, a lot of flexibility. She's very attentive to questions. She uses Slack to communicate. Let me just check my phone here. Enough time had passed that I actually had to write down everything, make notes about what to say this time. Um, yeah, that's, I guess, pretty much all I needed to note down. I will say about the fabric, knitting for all of Pure Silk, the fabric is a little bit sheer, even though it's not an open, like lacy knit. There is some sheerness to it because it's silk. It's not wool. It doesn't like bloom and really fill out the holes. So you can see here. I mean, that's a bit exaggerated because of the light that's coming through my window and what my camera just did to adjust to this. Um, but that is something that you may want to just be aware of if you are going to knit it. And just wear the appropriate underwear underneath. Um, yeah, so mine, because of the open back, will not be wearing a bra with it. But that is something that I am comfortable with. I'm also not super large in the chest, so don't need a lot of extra support. But I am looking forward to wearing this next Christmas party. Next up, something super cute, because it's for something I made for my daughter. Because one test knit wasn't enough, I needed to sign up for another. And so I signed up for the Side Bow Slipover Mini, which is a pattern by my friend Sarah, also known as Noelle Knits on Instagram. And here it is. It's bright. It's coming out more like less saturated on camera. I wonder. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. Super cute. This is the mini version. So Sarah released an adult version first, which I did not join the test group for. That was when I was still in my I'm not doing test knits this year phase. But definitely like regretted it. Um, so this is a worked top down slip over, and there are double knit edge worked on the sides, which you knit ties, and there you have a bow, hence the side bow name. The back is a little bit longer than the front. You have really nice kind of a ribbing detail along neckline. Sorry, not really the neckline, along the edges before the double knitting. And this ribbing is also into the back on the slope of the shoulder, down the edge of that panel there. Stitches are picked up for the neckline. You work a 1 by 1 rib for the neckline, 1 by 1 rib finished on the end of the panels. And then I decided to just add a little extra. And oh no, I just realized it's dirty. My daughter wore this at school yesterday. I need to clean it. Looks like there's some of her lunch on it. That's okay. Um, I just was like really pleased that she picked this to wear to school. And even though this is not superwash, I find wool like it's pretty easy to clean because stains kind of just sit on top of wool and you can just like spot clean really easily. At least in my experience, that's what has happened so far. But love that she wore this to school as her little layer over top. The yarn I've used is from Sunday Fiber Co. from Elisa's True Colors collection, which was that last year? This is the color called In the Pink, and the base, formerly called Nostalgia Worsted. Elise just changed the name of her bases, so I believe it's now just called Natural Worsted. But really lovely. I hadn't worked or purchased her worsted base before, and I'm like, wow, why haven't I? This was really nice to work with. Just really nice and soft. Probably felt extra nice after working with pure silk for um, a couple of months, to be honest. And this was 4.5 millimeter needles, so it just felt like it, flew off the needles. And then for the daisies, I just kind of used the Lazy Daisy stitch to do the petals, and then I've done turkey work for the center, and so it creates this like really fuzzy. You have to create these loops, secure them, and then you snip them, and then what you're looking at is just like the ends of the yarn, and it is acrylic yarn that I've used for the yellow just because I don't have yellow yarn except for what I will show you in a bit. And then I think the white is actually Drops Lima. So this is just stashed extra yarn. And Darcy chose to have, a more traditional daisy color with the white petals and yellow center. So she chose the colors for that. And she approved the daisy design that I went with. It was really nice. And so, they're not perfect. They're all a little bit different, just slightly different size, but it works. And just really happy that she is happy with it. And it looks so cute on her. And I did post a photo on Instagram. I'll put it up. Her outfit, what she's wearing in that photo that's all her doing. She is a little fashionista. She's been dressing herself since she was 3. Really nice for like waking up and getting ready, actually. She's been so independent that way, and it's been really fun. I know she doesn't, pick the colors or the exact clothes that, a parent may want her, my husband. Uh, but you know what? We got over that. She's young, she's having fun with her clothes, and at one point maybe she'll hit a stage where she just picks really plain, no color clothes. So she's a kid, dress like a kid, have fun. Um, I'm actually kind of feeling inspired by her kind of just color choices and mixing patterns and stuff. And maybe, I should dress like that. I should just be more fun with my clothes too. So, this just wasn't cute enough that I had to knit up a mini version, which at the request of my daughter. So I happen to have just enough extra or leftover yarn from this. So I originally only had two skeins, so 200 grams of this yarn, and I think I used about one and a half. And then my daughter said, "Well, I need my bear to match me. I need, for my doll." So she's got this white polar bear that she's like really attached to, and also this like baby doll, and they're like roughly the same size, so it kind of works that they can share this. But yeah, there is no pattern. Okay, this is not included in Sarah's pattern for the side bow slip over. I'm sorry. But the construction of it is, very much based on the mini version. Obviously, the stitch counts and things are different. I had to measure the bear, but I already knew my gauge and kind of work out the size. But I was also majorly playing yarn chicken, so much so that I didn't actually have enough to do the I-cord that's on the side. But man, was I ever lucky. So this sweet shop blanket that I've been working on for my daughter, I happen to have a ball of DK weight yarn, because the sweet shop blanket you can use DK weight yarn or fingering held double. Sorry, I feel like I have fluff on me. And this color was so similar. Like if you just kind of glance at it, you think the entire thing is Sunday Fiber Co. But the I-cord, I didn't do double knitting. I did I-cord also because of Yarn Chicken, is from Bramble Ridge, Megan Bramble Ridge. This is one of her DK minis that I had purchased back in 2023 to add to my daughter's sweet shop blanket. So unfortunately now that means I only have one triangle of that color in there, but I was able to finish this. And also added the daisy embroidery with a fingering weight yarn this time because the worsted weight yarn was just going to be too much. And I did not do turkey work for the centers. I just did like regular stitches over top one another for the yellow. And there we go. So now they're Darcy's bear and or doll. They have little matching outfits. So because I test knit this slip over, kind of for my free pattern, well, actually, I've test knit for Sarah enough that I guess she owes me a few free patterns from test knitting. And so I did get the adult size of the slip over. And so that's actually what I'm thinking of making to wear over top of the dress that I sewed. And if it's really chilly, maybe like wear this too. So the yarn I've selected for my slip over is not bright pink. It's more of a neutral, like almost oyster beige gray color. I did not want like off-white because I didn't want it to be too warm because the dress is quite cool tone. So I wanted the yarn to remain cool tone. Tip for you guys, if you purchase from Wool Warehouse like me, which is where I get all of my drops yarn, I always go to the drops website to look at the color swatches because sometimes the color swatches on the Wool Warehouse website are come out differently from the Drops website. I mean, trying to pick color from your computer screen is not always ideal, but I have noticed that little bit of discrepancy for some of the swatches that they have. So, whenever possible, I recommend going to the actual yarn supplier's website, yarn company's website, to look at the color swatches. Like, if like Will Warehouse also sells Cascade yarn, so go to the Cascade website to look at their color swatches. But that's my little tip, quick tip for shopping Drops yarn from Will Warehouse. Okay, of course my battery dies. All this fiddling around and practicing and getting ready for filming. Um, yeah, I hope 3 months is a long time to not be creating any content, so I apologize if this is not my best episode, maybe. So it's gonna take me some time to get back into the rhythm of things, and I know, my daughter is in school for 5 days of the week. Am I going to be putting more work into the channel? More work than I previously did when my daughter was at preschool for 3 days a week? Yes and no. Just because I have more of the time, I don't necessarily want to devote all that time to my YouTube channel. However, I would like to become more regular with it now that I have it. But with this extra time, now I have, there's opportunities for other things to come into my life or to come back into my life, like exercise or just other things. I don't know. This whole 5 days a week school is all new to me. So I will, you know, see how the days go, how I feel, whether I actually have the motivation or urge to sit down in front of the camera more. Maybe I'll create different content, still knitting related. But that's just kind of my initial thoughts and feelings about it now, as my daughter's only in the second week of school. So let's move on to the final item that I've worked on this summer. So I feel like it's actually not a lot of knitting done this summer, and that's okay. Summer is not a time to get a lot of that done. Summer is really a time, especially for my family, is where we're more active, we're outside a lot. I just naturally don't feel like sitting still and knitting all the time. Even though I still dabble in it, but I'm just not as motivated. But now we are getting into like the season of knitting as we draw closer to the start of fall and the days are getting darker and I wake up and there's fog over the water and yeah. But before then, it's still summer. So final item I want to share is this yellow number. This is Blouse #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And this is something that I've been kind of wanting to add to my wardrobe for quite some time. Just didn't get around to it until there was a sale at Will Warehouse. Nothing like buying yarn to motivate me to get knitting again. So I've used Drops Bell, and there was like significant discount on Drops Bell at one time during the summer. This is the color, it's called Dandelion. I will maybe put it in the description, the actual color code, if you are interested in this color. But what's nice about Drops Bell, it's completely like animal fiber free. It is e-blend. I believe it is cotton, viscose, linen, rayon. I didn't bring the tag with me, but there's no wool in it, which makes it definitely a more summer friendly yarn for me here anyways. And there is like a little bit of difference about how the different fibers take the dye. So there is kind of almost a marling within the yarn itself. So it's not as solid, completely solid yellow I mean, it looks mostly solid. The lighting in here is getting a little, the sun's getting even more covered by clouds, but I'll post up some photos and video of me in this. But it's really comfortable. For me, I didn't find any major changes from pre-blocking to blocking for this one. So this blouse, so I put it in, very similar category of type of garment as this Sadie sweater. The Sadie sweater, because of the drop shoulder, and there's positive ease, not a lot of it, about 6 inches of positive ease in the Sadie sweater. So this one, for me, makes it more like casual, but not like a big sweater to wear. Blouse number one, you're intended to knit it with negative ease, and it's got very like closer fitting sleeves. Doesn't have a deep yoke. Everything's just more fitted. And so for mine, the stitch gauge for this pattern is 19 stitches. I did meet row gauge, I believe, but I used 4mm needles. The pattern recommends 5, which I started knitting with, like for my swatch, and I thought this is very, very large or too open, and I think maybe that's just a difference of tension, like I just knit looser than the designer, but I use 4mm needles and I'm only off by 1 stitch. And I'm not the only one, because when I was going through the projects on Ravelry, I did see at least one other person use 4mm needles as well, and that person actually met gauge at 4mm needles. But anyways, it's all about your tension, and if you don't get gauge, adjust accordingly. But I didn't make any adjustments to the pattern or stitch counts, because the 20 stitch, that 1 stitch difference for me, like going that 1 stitch smaller, made all the difference in getting a closer fit, because I find that the grading for my favorite things patterns are a little bit like larger than my actual size. So sometimes, like, even when I make the smallest size, it's like I'm on the cusp of being like too small depending on what it is. Anyway, um, I really like the fit that I have on myself. I see in the sample photos for this one, like the shoulder lines are like a little bit wider or a little bit looser on her, and that is what I was trying to avoid. I wanted mine to fit almost like a satin sleeve fit, and yeah, was able to achieve that. So you cast on, I used a long tail cast on, but with a smaller needle. I think I used 3.5mm needles to do the cast on, and just like the first round, because you join to work in the round right away, and then switch to the 4mm needles. So that edge that you see here is just from my long tail cast on. And so you are working top down, you work some increases and short rows. You can see their back is raised slightly, but this top is meant to be worn, pretty close up to the neck, kind of like, boat neck style. It's very elegant. It's a neckline I used to avoid, but I've come to realize that I think it's quite flattering on my body. I wouldn't say that I'm like truly broad-shouldered person, but I've got like, there's a lot of space here. And my upper bust is actually larger than my full bust. So that's also helped me with finding better fit for my sweaters. Amy Sure talks about this, choosing to follow your upper bust measurement, because that more closely relates to your shoulders. Check out Amy Sure for more tips about fit. Yeah, so you work top down, work your increases, and at the same time, it's almost like contiguous knitting, and then the sleeves are being, those sleeve stitches are added as you work down, kind of like how you work a raglan, and then put these sleeve stitches on hold and work the body. There is no shaping in the body. It's because it's already kind of close fitting. And even though I do have an hourglass shape, I didn't feel the need to add any waist shaping, like any tapering in there. The sleeves are close fitting, and you decrease for a little bit, work straight for a bit, and then just do a little bit of increasing, kind of at like this point of the arm. I don't know why I'm awkwardly doing there. Yeah. Around this part of the arm, and you just do an increase around here. And you don't get quite a bell sleeve, but you do just get a little bit of that shape there. It makes it a little bit more, little feminine touch, I guess. A little elegance there, just elevates it. And what I've done differently from the pattern is that I've done, the pattern is similar to the Sadie sweater in that you just use standard bind off for the sleeves and the body. I decided to go with an Icelandic bind off because this one is closer fitting. I just wanted a bit more stretch and flexibility in my hems for, getting on and off. I also found that this yarn was just more conducive for the Icelandic bind off. It is actually something I've tried initially for the Sadie sweater, but I thought the yarn, I don't know, it was just like looking too thick. It was too bulky. Um, I don't know. And so I've done the Icelandic bind off on here, and you get kind of this similar effect, except it doesn't roll. Like that's just how it is. So it kind of looks like a rolled hem, but it's not actually rolled. And so it blocks out pretty like nice and flat. And then compared to the standard bind off, there's actually a little bit more stretch in it compared to a standard bind off. And so that just makes it a little bit more comfortable when I pull this over top. There's just ever so slightly bit of stretch. I like feeling that bit of flexibility when I put something over top, even though like no, this isn't gonna get stuck on my head. This is the body of it. But I just feel like when I pull things over top, if it just feels like there's no stretch at all, there's just something about the interaction and that experience of, putting on and removing that it matters to me. um, but it's also nice that it's not so stretchy that I don't think it's going to stretch out over time. I did notice after just a one wear that you can't tell here, fortunately. But as I was wearing it, there is kind of like a bagginess kind of developing at the elbow because of the straight fit of the sleeve. And of course, the elbow needs lots of room to bend. So sometimes I would look and there'd be like, you get that like elbow bulge of fabric. So I just like, would smooth out my sleeve a bit. So after blocking, so I did make note of my sleeve length before blocking. It was like, okay, I need it to be, my sleeve was this length pre-blocking. I know I need to make it like a centimeter more. I feel like I could have tried to make it longer, but I also feel like I maybe knit my sleeves just a little bit short. They're kind of bracelet length right now, and I didn't want really long sleeves, but I wasn't sure if I wanted bracelet length, so we'll see. But I wore it a whole day. Um, and it felt fine, and I think it looked fine. But with that, interaction with the elbow, I wonder if there's going to be the issue of sometimes sleeves feel like shorter after some wears. I find this with some of my wool sweaters, like if I've knit something like perfect, but then after a while it's almost like it shrinks up a bit. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have to go back and add some extra rows. Maybe I won't. Maybe we'll actually start stretching out longer. Maybe the cotton will stretch out. I don't know. We shall see. But I do have a bunch of this yarn left over, so if I need to make adjustments, I can. And so that is blouse number 1. Follow the instructions for size extra small. Again, 20 stitches for my stitch gauge instead of 19, 4mm needles, and Icelandic bind off for the sleeves and the body. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the finished objects of the 3-month break. I intentionally did not bring any of my whips, nor will I be talking about any of the whips because I think that's just a lot to go through. Also, as I said, I'm trying to get back into the groove of talking about my knits again. So hopefully this one didn't feel too disjointed or weird. I don't know. It's probably all in my head. So what's next? I mentioned Knit City, Vancouver. It is back in Vancouver. This one feels like a little bit special because it's the last time it's going to be at the Peony Fairgrounds. Kind of sad. I don't know where they're gonna have it next, but I am really excited to go to kind of like my hometown fiber festival. I did not go to Flock, but excited to see all my fiber and knitting friends again. And so, if you are going to Knit City, Vancouver, I do plan on being there this Saturday for sure. So if you see me there, feel free to come up and say hi. I'd like to meet you guys. So thank you so much for hanging out with me with my kind of comeback episode after my 3-month break. More is coming. I am back, guys. I'm sorry if I worried anyone with that long of a break. But until then, guys, happy knitting. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.